We're going to try this evening call. Just like to introduce Jimmy, who is my partner. He has a very strong both technical background and financial background. Jimmy and I are about the same age. We're all turning 40, or I turned 40. He's a year or two younger than me. We've both been around. Jimmy first graduated from Cornell, summa cum laude. Went to Goldman for 5 years and went to Google for 5 years. So he was a derivatives trader as well. Spent 5 to 7 years coding at Google. He later co-founded a company of his own and sold it. Now it's just hanging around and do some trading and investing. We kind of work on interesting projects together. One of the few things that he did that had done really well is buying in early in NVIDIA, as well as SpaceX. Thanks to Jimmy, I also got into NVIDIA pretty early. When I asked him about Palantir, he actually didn't. What did you say, Jimmy? You actually stopped me from going into Palantir.
I stopped you.
You kind of did. You were like, I was like, remember when Palantir was like in around 20 to 30, and I was like, should we buy Palantir? And then you're like, oh, NVIDIA can do most of it, so maybe we don't need Palantir.
I don't recall that conversation.
You don't recall that? It's okay.
But it sounds like it's possible.
Jimmy certainly knows technology well. He's one of the smartest guys, and he's the typical, I would say, the typical kid that you envy while growing up, because he seems to just read the entire book before the semester, gets the entire class, and just sleeps through the entire year and gets an A+. So that's Jimmy. What have you been up to lately in Tokyo? How'd you liking it?
Tokyo is interesting. It's very safe. I assume like most of the audience is, or at least a good portion of the audience is in the States. We just moved from the States, so we're probably going to stick around here for a few years. It's very safe. It's pretty convenient. It's like, especially if you're a Chinese or Chinese American or Asian, it's pretty easy to get around because there's some cultural familiarity.
They can't really tell the difference between you and a gaijin or something. Right?
People get confused. They're not sure how to open up. Are you going to speak Japanese or
Korean?
They're like, Chinese? Speak English? It takes them a few seconds.
Cool. I'm trying to bring Jimmy onto this podcast, or this thing that we're doing, where this community and this daily calls, since it's very interesting where Jimmy and I actually we don't do it daily, we probably do a weekly or bi-weekly call, just chat about things we see in the market, directions of technology, and then just anything just in general, interesting things we observe in the media or in the tech world. Figure we'll bring Jimmy into this conversation. I think one of the things we can talk about tonight is storage. You were the one that told me about storage. I actually recorded a quick video about it. Now we got the solid state drive. Actually, we got a memory. We got the solid state drives that are, both of them are being heavily used by these new data centers or the enterprises. This HDD, or the more traditional storage, which has been, it's still, those companies have done pretty well in the last year already. You feel that the need for these more traditional storage is actually still underappreciated.
I saw your video. I think you actually described it really well, where there's some different tiers of storage. It used to be you had a hard drive in your computer, or you had a hard drive in, I think the original iPod actually had a hard drive.
Really?
It had a little hard drive. That's what gave it its 10 gigabyte or whatever to hold your MP3 capacity. A lot more than the flash music devices that were on the market at the time, which were like 120 megabytes or something.
That's right.
That was an interesting use case. They've kind of fallen off in terms of they're not on your phone anymore. They're not in, I guess people don't use iPods anymore. They're not on your phone. They're mostly not on your laptop.
Why didn't they even take it out of the laptops? Just curious.
I don't know if you remember, like back in the day, like you have to be pretty careful with your laptop. Put it off the table, maybe the screen would crack. Even if the screen didn't crack, you would probably lose all your data.
I remember that.
The hard drive didn't like being dropped. For portable use cases, you probably don't want a hard drive. I started thinking about this the other day because a couple of months ago, I bought a couple of hard drives. I hadn't done that in a while. I think a lot of people, a little bit more on doing their own IT spectrum, will buy them just to do backups. You connect to your computer, like every week or every day it backs it up, and then you don't think about it. That's usually how people use it. I bought one because I was like, I'm doing some AI stuff. I need to download a bunch of documents. I want a place to put it. It doesn't fit on my computer. I was like, why not get a hard drive five times cheaper per gigabyte or per terabyte of storage? That's actually the main use case for a consumer, I think, is if you need to keep a lot of files around, you don't want to put it in the cloud. Because if you put it in the cloud, that can get a little bit pricey once you start putting a lot of files.
It actually takes a while to retrieve it, even.
It takes a while, especially if you're in the US, uploading it is very slow. Some countries like uploading and downloading at the same speed. In the US, uploading files is very slow. Just like buy a hard drive for a couple $100. I didn't look at the stock price. It's been going up for like Western Digital, Seagate. I think you mentioned briefly the industry, the hard drive manufacturers. They've actually consolidated a lot over the last 2 to 3 decades. It used to be in like the 90s. There are a lot of companies making hard drives. Slowly they exit the market because the market wasn't growing very fast. Actually, it's not that easy to build like a state-of-the-art hard drive. The physical components are fairly straightforward. It's like a little platter, actually. There's a few different little platters that are coated with something that's magnetic, and they spin very fast. That part's pretty well understood. Actually, how do you write data to it? How do you read data? It's actually technically challenging. It's like under patents. Basically, you see this technology where the revenues weren't going up a lot. They got harder and harder to actually build a darn thing. There's only a few large-scale hard drive makers. There's Toshiba, which is private, and there's Western Digital and Seagate. Those are the main players. From my perspective, why would you want to get a hard drive? It's because you have a lot of data. Most people don't have tons and tons of data. It can just fit on their Google Drive accounts or whatever.
Yeah.
I think over time, people are going to want to store more and more video and audio because you can actually process that with AI technologies that are coming down the pipe. And people are going to want to be storing a lot more video, I think, in the future. And that's one reason to look at hard drives.
Right. Video part. So people not only are going to be recording more videos, but they are going to be creating more videos, right? Sora coming out, so anybody could be a creator. So you don't know who will be the best storyteller, which video is going to be most popular. But for individuals, default people are going to be creating a lot more video. And then in terms of the companies, like the databases, like the enterprise side, Tesla, right? They're recording tons of videos, right? You're talking about humanoid robots and all these feeds. Then there'll be huge amounts of more videos being recorded. And can you explain to me, like, in terms of, or to the audience, like, then drives is actually a better option than state drives or memory or DRAM in terms of recording video or reading and writing and retrieving video?
Yeah, I think you mentioned this already, where like an engineer would call it tiers of storage.
Yeah.
So as you go slower and slower, price per terabyte or per gigabyte to store the information gets cheaper and cheaper. So solid state drives, SSDs, were kind of a really good sweet spot, and they mostly replaced hard disk drives, your laptop, for example, because they were, for a variety of reasons, like they're more robust, they're a little bit faster. This was a period of time when people weren't storing like more and more and more data rapidly. So you look back, 20 years, how big were early solid state drives? Maybe like 30, 50 gigabytes, right? Maybe like.
Yep.
So that's that's like a 10x growth over a couple of decades, which is actually very slow growth.
Right.
State drives were like in capacity and they were more convenient. I think we're going to just see like increasing demand for a lot more storage. For